This is Trisha Conover with Wine Wanderings. Today I'm happy to introduce to you Karen MacNeil, the author of The Wine Bible, the best-selling book on wine in the US. She and her team also craft a digital newsletter called Winespeed, and Karen is the president of Karen MacNeil and Company. It's a firm that's based in Napa Valley that creates one-of-a-kind wine experiences and educational marketing programs for a wide range of corporations. She has been on television and made many appearances, including NBC's Today Show, and was the host of an Emmy-Award-winning program on PBS called Food, Wine, and Friends with Karen MacNeil. Karen has been named one of the 100 most influential people in the wine industry. And Karen and I have met many times in the past in Napa Valley at the Symposium for Professional Wine Writers, and also at the Culinary Institute of America, where I started my wine studies in 2009. Karen, welcome to Wine Wanderings.
Hi, Trisha. Nice to be with you.
It's so great to have you. Let's talk about Winespeed and how it's changed and how your business has changed in this past year with the pandemic.
Yeah, we started Winespeed in 2016 as a digital newsletter that was super fast to read, hence the name Winespeed. So many people, knew me from the Wine Bible, and the Wine Bible is fun to read. You can pick it up anywhere, but but it's hefty, right? It's a book, and it's a 1,000-page book. So I was hoping to create a newsletter that would come to your inbox every Friday, which is what it does, full of fast, fun tidbits about wine to read, so that you could sort of keep up to date, keep your knowledge up to date. We put in there fun quizzes, and it's grown. We have about 30,000 subscribers, but it hasn't changed. We somehow managed to hit the nail on the head pretty right the first time around. So the content is very similar. It's just a testament to the world of wine that we never run out of things to talk about and ideas to share. Like everyone's business, my business has gone a lot virtual in the last year. We do an enormous number of live virtual wine tastings with winemakers and vintners around the world. And people can get a schedule of those on Winespeed. So it works out really well.
You said something interesting in an article on Winespeed, because I do get it every Friday. And it was in January on the 29th. And you said one should match the wine to the mood, not wine to the food. Can you give me an example of what you meant by that?
Yeah. I think we all, whether one is a wine expert or not, everybody knows kind of what they're in the mood for. And we do that every night when we figure out what should we have for dinner, right? What should we cook? What should we go to the store and get? What are we in the mood for? And I think wine is very much like food in that regard. You just come home after a long day of work and you're in the mood for a glass of Chardonnay, even if you're putting a steak on the grill. So, without a doubt, there are food and wine matches that are just, sublime. But I don't think on an everyday basis, people need to be quite so, tightly rigid about how they eat and drink. I mean, after all, people managed to eat and drink quite well for the last 8,000 years since wine's been invented, and nobody gave them a list of wine and food rules. So I think they ate according to their own body's desire. And I don't want us to minimize that today.
That's a good point. No rules. That's right. So what other kinds of consulting are you doing these days, Karen?
We do a lot of work for various companies and corporations, law firms, insurance companies, banks, who are using live virtual wine tastings as a way to stay in touch with their clients. You know, in the old days, not so long ago, a law firm would take its best clients out to dinner and socialize and talk a little business. And now all of that work has moved online. But instead of, you know, simply having a Zoom business meeting, it's really quite fun to do a wine tasting with your clients before that. And so it's been, we have found it a wonderful way of helping businesses stay in touch with their clients.
It really is. I did an article on that this year, actually, with Stoller and Clos de Vol. Both have corporate clients, and they were definitely doing virtual tastings for some large corporations like Google and Intel. So it's a really good business to have and a fun way to entertain your clients, for sure. The latest edition of the Wine Bible, I know that you're coming up with a third edition now. And so tell me how that's going and how that has evolved over your 3 editions.
Yeah, the Wine Bible, here is the Wine Bible in the event that someone didn't know it. This is the 2nd edition. The 1st edition took 10 years to write. It's a big book, and it's a really well-researched book. The 2nd edition took 4 years to write, and 4 or 5. And I'm hoping to do this 3rd one, which I'm in the middle of, in 3 years, which sounds like a very long time. But of course, we're running a business at the same time that I'm doing all that writing. And how has it changed? Well, the wine world has gotten a lot bigger. There are places that need to be covered today, like China and Croatia, the Republic of Georgia, places that typically weren't in wine books historically. But also, I think I have just gotten better as a teacher at explaining really pretty complex concepts in an entertaining and easy to understand kind of way. You know, not everybody is automatically a great writer, me included, and it takes as much time and effort to become a good writer as it does to become knowledgeable about wine or a good taster. So, you know, presumably with time, one gets better, and I think I've gotten better at writing and explaining how wine works.
So on that note, what personal trait do you attribute your success as a wine author and consultant contributor? What about you has made you successful in that regard?
Yeah, I'm pretty relentless. I don't take no for an answer. And I, you know, I think of myself as a pretty creative person. When the Wine Bible came out, it was different than any wine book that had ever been produced. And, you know, I suppose the fastest way to get me to do something is to tell me it's not possible to do something. And then I'm really determined. But I think that anyone who has their own business in wine and who is not independently wealthy, you have to be determined, and you have to not take no for an answer, and you have to be creative. So I know those are 3 things, but they're kind of related in my mind.
Oh, definitely. And it's the only wine book I've read cover to cover. I read it the month before I went to the CIA and felt like it gave me the boost that I needed. It was so readable. You're right. Congratulations on that. So Karen, you've conducted many interviews with some of the most important people in the wine business. Jancis Robinson's an example. I saw you interview her live. But who were 2 of your favorites?
You know, I think one favorite, of course, was Stephen Spurrier, who unfortunately passed away yesterday. Truly one of the great men of wine, the first real British writer to be interested in the United States. I met Stephen 40 years ago in the Napa Valley when no British writer considered California important enough to visit. So certainly that interview with Stephen, which I think was his last interview, was very important. And another one that comes to mind, that not so much because it was fun, but because it was so informative, was the interview I did with Carol Meredith, the great Dr. Carol Meredith, who is the professor emerita of UC Davis's Enology and Viticulture program and the co-inventor of DNA typing of grapevines. And she told during this interview, which went on quite some time, the whole story of how DNA typing was invented for grapevines, what they did, how they discovered the parentage of Zinfandel. And that was really, really fascinating. And I suppose if I can add one more, it would be the one with Bill Harlan, because Bill is very quiet. He's not easy to interview. Luckily, I've known him many years, so I felt like I could, get him to talk about things that he normally wouldn't. So that was really a fun one too.
Well, those are great examples. I'm very sad about Stephen's passing. He actually handed me my diploma in London for graduation, and I have a picture of him on my diploma wall. So we're all very sad about his passing for sure. I think that covered what I wanted to talk about today, except for one thing. So my newsletter's Wine Wanderings, and I'm a big wine traveler, wine and spirits actually traveler. So the great thing about wine and spirits, they're usually in beautiful places where they exist. And what's been your favorite wine region adventure?
I've been lucky to have so many. One of the great things about wine, as you know, is that it is one of the ways that a culture reveals itself. And so traveling to wine regions is not only fun because of the wine, but also because of all of these slight intangibles that you learn about the culture and the mores of a place and the values of a place and the traditions of a place. So, you can go tango dancing in Argentina and be drinking Malbec, or, taking monorails up and down great vineyards, steep vineyards in the Mosel, believing that your life is about to end because those vineyards are so steep. Or, be in Spanish bodegas where Hemingway drank wine. I mean, it's an endless fascination of mine, how wine does reveal the culture of a place. So is one better or more revelatory than another? I don't think so. I don't know. I go looking whenever I'm in a place to really feel the mores of that place. My most recent trip before the pandemic was, interestingly, to the Himalayas, to China, where, I've never stood in a vineyard with yaks before, but there it was, so yeah, yaks in the vineyard, and had yak yogurt and yak yogurt for breakfast, yak tea for breakfast as well, and then yak meat at night. It was like all yaks all the time, but the wine was remarkable.
That really was an adventure. I'm not going to forget that story anytime soon, Karen. Well, thank you so much for joining me on Wine Wanderings and recording for me. And I'll look forward to interviewing you this time next year to see what we've done now that we're opened up.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Tricia. My pleasure.